I first want to say Kuzazampo and Tashi Dalai and to all the Venerable Rinpoches and the monastics and everyone that put this on, thank you so much. And also to my extended Vajra family, who I'm traveling with, and Ian Baker and Dr. Nita Chenik-Sang, and everyone that's helping me to not pass out right now, because I'm a yogini and not a public speaker. In fact, I think it was only because of yoga that I can be here right now, standing here in front of you. But I want to talk to you about Vajra Yoga, which is something that Bob Thurman and I started together. And we did so because I practiced and taught yoga for 25 years, and I saw the great benefits from it. And then in 2012, I met Bob Thurman, and he blew my mind, and I started practicing Vajrayana and fell in love with it. The relationship blossomed, and then in 2014, I had the great blessing to go to India, to Ladakh, and take my first Abhishekam with His Holiness the Dalai Lama in Kalachakra. Yeah? So then the similarities between what I was practicing in Hatha Yoga and Vajrayana started to brew, and Bob and I began to debate in something that was also happening around that time called Buddha and the Yogis. And this is where we were looking at the confluence of Hatha Yoga and Buddhism. And I also have to say a particular shout out to His Eminence Khenpo Rinpoche, because he really was part of our Vajra Yoga first year of our graduating class. What happened there is we prepared the yogis for about a year. We went through our teacher training program, and they studied the three vehicles of Buddhism with Bob. We got them very grounded in ethics, and their hearts really opened. And by the end of it, they started to ask, who can we do an empowerment with? We would like to study and practice Vajrayana and Anuttara Yoga Tantra. And so Bob reached out to Khenpo Rinpoche, and he agreed to help our students. They did Ngangdro with him, and they started to work with him online, and then he gave the empowerment to us. And they're still working with him. So this is really kind of our goal, is to introduce Vajrayana through the yoga studios in the West. We have a Vajra Yoga School, all right? So Vajra Yoga is for the 21st century. It's adapted to today's world. Vajra Yoga combines the physical practices common to Hatha and Buddhist traditions. And it ensures the broader intentions of the practitioner are aligned to the greater good of the individual, but also the community. And that was, to me, one of the big differences, because for Hatha Yoga, even though the extension was out to the community, the practice was really about my own individual, even transcendence of my problems and my own individual empowerment. But really it was the bodhicitta and other principles that extended it out to the community. And this is so important to us. We're also bringing the traditions back to their common core. Vajra Yoga is Hatha Yoga in the Buddhist clear light reality, scientific context, in the sense of being a mental and physical discipline of a human being that has subtle and extremely subtle bodies, the central nervous system and life force or vital energy, interlocking the coarse flesh and blood body. It's like Bob likes to say, the meat space body. Okay, next slide. So Vajra diamond is not meant to assert that yoga is primarily Buddhist in a religious denominational sense, but Vajra denotes rather that the Indian inner or spiritual scientific insight that ultimate reality is a clear light, approachable not only as God, Rama, Vishnu, Shiva, Shakti, Vajradhara, omnipresent creative being, preserver, transformer, savior, but also as an inconceivable, inexpressible, and yet, and for me most importantly, yogically experiential, infinite force of goodness. This is Nirguna Brahma, Shunyata, has many names, Nirodha, Nirvana, or infinite, ever uncreated, relative, unborn, illusory, clear light of the all void. Vajra Yoga is open-heartedness as intention. So we believe that today's complex, globalized world asks for democratic access to what His Holiness the Dalai Lama calls open-heartedness. And this equates to a development of enlightenment through 3 practices available to everyone. Okay? Mutual tolerance, transcendence of ideological and institutional conventions. Give you space for that. Raising of the general level of kindness, empathy, and compassion among all different kinds of people. So yoga education and training have played a role in this, as yoga helps practitioners somatically access some of the effects of the opening of the heart. And this is one of the reasons why yoga is so popular, and we believe, and I deeply believe, should be cultivated further to spread such benefits widely. And I've seen these benefits, having a studio where so many people come in, and their lives can be very broken. And it's also in the pandemic, as His Eminence Kalu Rinpoche was speaking about earlier, how it has become, with our studios being closed during that time, we saw a lot of people fall apart during that. And so the reopening of the studios, the Sangha, the place where they can really come and take refuge, fantastic for us. And a great picture, one of my favorite pictures of Bob and at 23 years old, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama at 29, when they first met, and definitely dear friends. And next slide. And this is a picture that I also love of Krishnamacharya, which is, he's the kind of the grandfather of modern Hatha Yoga in the West, especially in the United States. And what I love about this, of course, is he was one of the first to work with women, to let women into his shala, and Indra Devi, and this really opened things up. It also, I have to say, you know, to me, I think of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and how precious it was that he also opened up these empowerments of Kala Chakras to people like myself, that could go for a blessing, but also could potentially have an opening for us to actually go deeper. And this is one of the other aspects of Vajra Yoga, is that it is to create an open doorway for us to then, some of us will enter in to deeper study and find a master like Khentrul Rinpoche to work with. Next slide. And Vajra Yoga is yogis in enlightened action. Vajra Yoga sets yogic practices within the context of deep spirituality, the principles of enlightenment. So this is, you know, I think what I'm seeing in the yoga studio and yoga in the West has been the sort of dilution, the dilution of, it's diluted is the word I'm looking for. And a lot of the spirituality got stripped out and became very physical in practice. It doesn't mean that it wasn't still, it isn't still wonderful. But I do know that the people that come into my shala now are really looking for deeper practices and spiritual guidance. So this is really part of our intention, to help them find these deeper spirituality and principles of enlightenment. Vajra Yoga deepens an understanding of the scientific basis of being ethical. And this is something else that we're really, I'm going to get probably beeped, but Bob has something really important that I'd like to read to you on ethics, which is one of the most important aspects of our Vajra Yoga school, is that it's grounded in ethics. And also the Vajra Yogis, we want them to be evolutionary skillful and to ripen to become a free and happy being. It's our intention to share with the greater yoga world the teachings of the most reliable of inner scientists, the Buddha. We believe that modern yogis will greatly benefit from exposure to the Dharma, which is reality itself. Next slide. And then in the yoga studio, in the 21st century, yoga has become common practice for people of all races, religious denominations, ethnicities, social levels, and gender identities in order to achieve health, psychological growth, and spiritual growth. Witnessing the beneficial explosion of Hatha Yoga in the West, and there's 36 million practitioners, and it's growing, and not that many Buddhist practitioners in comparison to the people that are practicing yoga. And this is why I feel like it's a really great place for us to share Buddha's teachings. So our intention is to share the clear and precise methods the Buddha taught with this community. Okay, next slide. And to the modern yoga practitioner, Vajrayana teachings and sadhanas can bring a greater and more precise tool for understanding the reason for creating the Vajra body. And we want to place the Vajra body into the greater context of the Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path and re-emphasize the three principles of renunciation, compassion, and wisdom of emptiness. And, you know, of course, I think somebody's going to be speaking on the Mrita Siddhi and this particular edition. And we're excited about it because it's the oldest known Hatha text, and it points to the new research is that it is from Vajrayana. Okay, next slide. And we'll skip this too. This is about my personal background as an Ashtanga Vinyasa practitioner. This is also Krishnamacharya. Next slide. I'm going to wrap it up. Keep going. Keep going. And there's the Kala Chakra Mandala. And if you can move it a little bit over, but so I can see this, but Tibetan Buddhism's preservation of the Vajrayana vehicle as a means to enlightenment. I see what you're doing. You're not wanting to cut off that mandala, which I get it, because it's so incredibly beautiful. But yeah, that's there it is. Do we have to say anything more than that? All right, let's go to, now move it over. Yes, that's it. Go to the next page and we'll close. The discipline of Vajra Yoga is embarked upon by a human who intends to become fully conscious of the evolutionary process of life, choosing to evolve towards greater wisdom, compassion, and art or skill of living kindly, happily, and creatively for self and other, for the now and for the future, however defined. And we're really inspired by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In fact, his fourth aim, is that it? Or 2 minutes? Yeah, his fourth aim in life is to help return the Vajrayana teachings back to his motherland now of India, or the Nalanda tradition. There that and in gratitude for sheltering him and the Tibetan people for all of this time. So we are also hoping to open this up to even here in Bhutan, and I'll just close with this. My first day in Bhutan, I was staying in Paro at the wonderful Como Uma Hotel, quite extraordinary, and I went to yoga the first night. I was there for about 20 minutes, and they said yoga class is happening, so I had to go study with a Bhutanese yogi. He taught me a wonderful class, but it was Hatha Yoga, and as extraordinary as it was, I hope that when I come back in another 15 years, 20 years, 10 years, or even next year, that yoga class will be a Vajra-style class, and that I will get to hear some Buddha Dharma, and maybe even learn some of his secret practices, because that's where it's at, expanding Vajrayana. Thank you very much.